right, so the 3 versus 6 match. This is our quarterfinals. Mentioned Tannen Grace, Caleb Durward, and Brendan DeCandio over on the left. Tannen looking for that first win. Grixis Delver, he's up against Eldrazi Post. Now, Ryan, I know you play Grixis here. You know a Grixis deck. Do you like playing in City of Traders, or are you worried about it?
It is one of the scarier turn 1 lands to see. I would prefer to play against City of Traders versus playing against something like lands, but there's still a lot of starts that can be very problematic for the Grixis deck.
All right, well, Tannen will start turn 1 on Volcanic Island in the Delver of Secrets, and Matthew Borst, here's a Ancient Tomb into Chalice of the Void, setting it on 1. We'll see if it can resolve. And no, Tannen's going to daze that. I assume if that resolves, that's going to be a headache for Tannen's deck.
Yeah, that's very difficult to beat. And this is one of the benefits of being on the play, having the ability to daze, not needing to force a will there.
Yeah, we're Borst. I mean, seeding really does matter in these team events. We're Borst on the play and just start on Chalice on 1. We might have seen a different game. Now, Delver will turn into Insectile Aberration off a Force of Will, and Tannen will crack down to 15, replays the Volcanic Island, and says go. And now we see some of those posts. A Glimmer Post picked up for Matthew. Interested to see how those ramp. They're going to be slower, but there is some advantage later on. Eye of Ugin with Ancient Tomb. Matthew will send himself down to 13, maybe a Thought Knot Seer here. And actually it's just going to be a Matter Shaper. Could have a second one if he has it.
That's true. Yeah, they only cost 1 apiece with Eye of Ugin in play.
And we go back over to Tannen. Now this damage off Ancient Tomb, you got to figure is going to add up here as Matthew is hit down to 10.
And that is one of the advantages of the post version. Your Glimmer Posts can recover some of that Ancient Tomb damage. Though he's taking a lot.
Yeah. And Tannen has that Force of Will in hand. Wouldn't even mind trading that with a full turn. Go back over to Borst to draw here. He can make Reality Smasher, or at least he can attempt to make Reality Smasher.
And from here, that honestly might even resolve.
Yeah, it's actually just not fast enough.
Right. You tap the Ancient Tomb to cast it. You have the Aberration coming back at you. You'll be down to 5.
Okay, we'll go up to 11 off Glimmer Post, but then down to 9 from Ancient Tomb. And it looks like it will be Reality Smasher. We'll see whether or not Tannen wants to fight.
Yeah, it kind of depends how much he has. It looks like he has double Force, double blue cards.
Okay,
so.
well in that case, yeah, Force pitching Gitaxian Probe will take care of that. Tannen to 19.
Yeah, with these life totals, you counter basically any meaningful spell with double Force.
Sure. I go back over to Tannen Grace. Picks up another Volcanic Island. Hits Matthew down to 6. Really playing that tempo game. Now remember, Matthew has tapped Ancient Tomb 3 times.
Yeah, it is essential to have a land like Ancient Tomb if you want to Chalice on turn 1, but that of course didn't resolve. And now Tannen casting True Name Nemesis, that should be able to close the game.
Well, hold on. If he's got 2 mana, Matthew Borst has all his dust in hand.
Okay, something like Eldrazi Temple, City of Traders, second Ancient Tomb.
Yeah, here's a Glimmer Post. That gains 1 life for each locus, so it can actually put him up to 8.
Of course, all this dust, assuming that's the only thing that Matthew's able to present, that's not going to resolve. We already know that Tannen's hanging out with the second Force of Will, and certainly looks like he has a second blue card as well.
You're right. I'm not sure about that second Force. Yeah, if he can beat 2 Force of Wills here. Glimmer Post. We see these show up. Matter Shaper didn't want to swing that. Would have just bounced off the True Name. But a swing for 6 will put Matthew down to 2. Tannen could have a Lightning Bolt just to finish it off. Looks like he does not. But Matthew has to answer the True Name.
It's hard to have Lightning Bolts when you got all these Force of Wills.
Another Eye of Ugin drawn from Matthew. That will not let him cast the All Is Dust. So he'll tap the Ancient Tomb, go out on his own terms. Game 1 goes over to Tannen Grace.
Got to be happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, especially against a deck like Eldrazi, we saw Ancient Tomb was really a liability there.
Yes. Yeah, it's nice to be up a game there. The Chalice decks can be scary. Reality Smasher matches up very nicely against True Name Nemesis if it resolves. All
right, so players are going to take out sideboards here. They do have face-up deck lists because we're in the single elimination rounds. So they're going to look over those decks, and we'll be back in just a minute with game right, so in sideboards here, we look with Tannen Grace and Matthew Borst. Eldrazi Post. We're actually going to switch over that scoreboard here. Tannen Grace actually up a game. Eldrazi Post, I mean, it only can play colorless spells. So I look at its sideboard, and, you know, options are kind of limited. We have Thorn of Amethyst, 4 Turmoil Scripts, 2 Ratchet Bomb, 2 Warping Whale, a Sorcerer's Spyglass, a Dismember, and an Umezawa's Jite. I don't know if I want to use any of these for the matchup.
A few of them play. Ratchet Bomb is the only way to answer a True Name Nemesis. It's also pretty good against a deck with a few 1-mana threats. If you can kill, say, 2 Delver Secrets or Deathfire Shaman Delver, that can come up. Warping Whale, actually, at the right time, can catch those early threats as well.
Sure.
I like Dismember. That slows Tannen down. An early Dismember would have actually gained Matthew a bit of life against that Insectile Aberration.
Seems like anything that even can be a bad removal spell you're interested in.
Yeah, and then Umezawa's Jite, that one can actually be a good removal spell.
Yeah, now on Tannen's side, he has 3 Cabal Therapy, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Pyroblast. Probably not using those. 2 Diabolic Edict, 2 Surgical Extraction, a Pithing Needle, a Dismember, a Grim Lavamancer, and an Is It Staticaster.
So Tannen likes Dismember because he's dealing with large threats. This is actually a way to deal with something like Reality Smasher or Thought-Knot Seer if they resolve. Diabolic Edict for much the same reason. And there's a good enough argument to bring in Ancient Grudge for both Chalice of the Void and these Umezawa's Jites.
We're looking at those. Other matches on the board, we mentioned Bant Spirits and Burn, and also have the Grixis Energy, Grixis Control matchup over on Standard. They're still in their game 1s right now.
Yeah,
we'll get to as much of those as we can.
Definitely some attrition about those matchups.
Yeah. One thing about the Eldrazi deck, with them being on the play and being this Ancient Tomb style deck, they don't get too much selection as far as their strategy. A lot of times I feel like their hand locks them into their game plan, and then they just hope that executing it is enough.
Right. There's a lot of pressure to have a good opening hand with this deck.
That said, mulligans, do you feel that it mulligans well? At least so you can try to select a hand?
It depends how good of a hand we're talking about mulliganing into. You have reasonable odds, even after you mulligan, to still have a turn 1 Chalice of the Void. You know, mulligan to 6, usually pretty reasonable. I would accept only the best 7 card hands. As we go down to 5, I'm a bit more skeptical of the deck.
Yeah, we mentioned that he did have a turn 1 Chalice of the Void for when it was hit by a Daze from Tannen. But in all fairness, actually after Tannen dazed the Chalice of the Void, I don't believe he cast a 1-mana spell at any point after that.
No, there were no cantrips. It was just a couple Force Wills and a True Name Nemesis.
So, interestingly, he could have, you can't
games.
play that way, right?
You have those games, yeah.
Yeah. Could have just let it resolve. Had your True Name a turn earlier.
Yeah, it is unfortunate the way that those counter spells still just play against Chalice. If you're already on the table with a threat, Chalice is generally not going to quite do it. You do want to counter it, though, if you draw things like Ponder. Brainstorm, of course.
Well, games are evened up here. Over on the Standard table, Sam Lawrence with Grixis Control takes game 1.
Yeah, with DeCandio having things like Fatal Push in his main deck, Harness Lightning against a deck that's just Scarab Gods and Torrential Gearhulks, it's not great for DeCandio.
Yeah, Lawrence does also play main deck versions of those main deck copies of those cards, but those actually play against Brennan's deck.
Yeah, they can hit Glintsleeve Siphoner.
Yeah. Eventually, he may actually need to keep them in. Sam does have the Siphoners. They're just in his sideboard.
Sure. Yeah, it's usually reasonable to still have access to Harness Lightning. Has a little bit of play against the Scarab God, and then you have it in case of Siphoner.
All right, so game 2, we have our Call Us Eldrazi player on the play, Matthew Borst. Looks like he's in. Deck nearly every land making 2. See both Eldrazi Temple there.
Yeah, some of them take a little bit more work. Cloud Post more vulnerable to Wasteland.
And actually, on more consideration, Matthew's going to go ahead and pitch the hand, going down to 6 cards. Eldrazi, Ryan, a couple years ago was really the talk of Legacy, but it's fallen off since then.
Yeah, it just kind of happens. There's a good mix of 2-mana, 3-mana spells. The card we saw be very good for Grace there in game 1. True Name Nemesis, very powerful. The deck, again, like as we've been saying, doesn't really have card selection. You rely on your opening hand. You're a little bit vulnerable to Force of Will. There's just a lot of good spells that you get access to by not playing these soul lands.
Sure. Yeah, the Ancient Tomb deck that's really gotten in favor now has been the Blood Moon version, mono red decks.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of no basic land mana bases, so Blood Moon gives you another element to Haymaker, whereas Thought Not Seer, Reality Smasher, while very good, don't often close.
All right, well, in this modern match, Caleb Durward on Bant Spirits takes game 1. So for both Tannen and Caleb, they have their game 1s. If they can both get their game 2s, it won't matter that Brennan is down.
With Borst looking at a 6 here, every mulligan, those increase his odds.
Until he's not particularly into the 6. Does he want to go to 5 is the question. Looks like he has a Chalice of the Void in the opener, but maybe just 1 land. Mm-hmm. You see Endless One, Chalice of the Void, Glimmer Post. Well,
Endless One with a hand like this.
It's really not a card.
Yeah.
He's going to go ahead and talk to Ari Silverfine for a second here.
Yeah, if you have to tap Ancient Tomb to make a 3/3 Endless One.
Yeah, that's not a great card.
That's like a limited rate. That's not a legacy rate.
Yeah, 3-mana, 3/3. He has a 2-mana, 3/3 that deals 2 to you. Yeah, he's going to go to 5.
Don't get me wrong, that'd be a pretty good card in draft, but Legacy does demand quite a bit more from the power level of your cards here. So, looking for something like Ancient Tomb, Eldrazi Temple, Chalice of the Void, Thought Not Seer, 5th card. That'd be a very good 5.
Yeah, he can't. A turn 1 Chalice of the Void might still be good enough if Tannen misses the check on Force of Will.
Yeah. And there are certainly keepable 7s that do not have Force of Will.
True. 5 cards for Matthew. Is he going to get something put together? We'll see. Matter Reshaper, Eye of Ugin. Got something going. I mean, I don't know if you want to go at 4. Yeah, it looks like he's going to keep on 5. Scry. And it's going to stay on top. All right, let's see what he has put together with his 6 cards. 5 plus the Scry. Turn 1 Eye of Ugin, but nothing else. He'll pass.
Not a sign of strength.
Well, I'd assume he's got something else good on turn 2. We'll see what it is.
I do think that there is an Ancient Tomb.
All right.
I suppose if you're going to expose 1 to Wasteland, you'd rather be the Eye of Ugin.
Right, especially some of your Haymaker spells aren't Eldrazi. On top of that, you could have a second of Eye of Ugin.
Right, it is legendary.
Though Daze could catch him again, Tannen will cast Deathrite Shaman. Go over to Matt. Remember that second card is a card he scried to the top.
Looks like he has access to turn 2 Thought Not Seer.
Yeah, he can play around Daze or with Matter Reshaper on turn 2, but I don't know. On a 5-card hand, I'm not sure I really want to play around stuff too much. If he goes slow, then it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. You kind of just want to check them and then hope that you top deck well if you fail.
Yeah. Ancient Tomb. He'll go down to 18. Gonna make Thought Not Seer. Just pick that over Matter Reshaper. We'll see first, does it resolve? Does Tannen have a Daze? No, we'll show his hand. It is Diabolic Edict, Brainstorm, Wasteland, Young Pyromancer, Misty Rainforest.
So the Diabolic Edict and Young Pyromancer are both problems here.
It's interesting. Tan actually could have wastelanded last turn, just chose not to.
Please find your seats.
Yeah, getting the Shaman online, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You have the setup here too, where probably would rather wasteland the Ancient Tomb than the Eye of Ugin.
Yeah, you're right. So Matthew should assume that the Ancient Tomb is going to get wastelanded. And given that, is there a card you like him more to take?
It kind of depends. Tannen might not even necessarily wasteland. If you leave him with the Pyromancer, he could just go Pyromancer Brainstorm.
Okay.
He could the Pyromancer Wasteland's
Wasteland,
also pretty
yeah.
reasonable. He has access to that no matter which of these two you leave him with. I think that the difference maker might just be that young Pyromancer can actually win the game. Obviously, you don't want to lose your Thought Knot Seer, but young Pyromancer both does a job of chump blocking, and then eventually you get enough tokens where you actually just win from there.
We have our first team into the semifinals, and that's the team playing the winner of this. So the team of Michael Derzo, Joshua Taylor, and Matt Tumovich, they're all in decks in all three formats. They executed. They are moving on to the semis where they'll play the winner here.
And Borst does take the Diabolic Edict, so now Tannen can choose between young Pyromancer plus Spell or going for the Wasteland here. And he actually gets the best of both worlds because he drew Gitaxian Probe. So from here, he can cast the young Pyromancer. Oh, he's not even going to get the information. He had the option to probe before he had to make that decision.
Sure.
But he's just going to Wasteland the Ancient Tomb.
Here's young Pyromancer. Now he'll probe. You're saying like he could have done this all pre-land drop?
Right. And then maybe he draws a spell that he wants to cast, or maybe he just leaves a Brainstorm from here. But he's going to see some spells here, and this stuff reinforces Wastelanding the Ancient Tomb anyway.
Chalice of the Void, Matter Shaper, and Endbringer. So none of them are castable at the moment.
Yep.
And most of them, Matter Shaper and Chalice of the Void, are both one land away from castable, depending on the land. And Endbringer's a long ways off.
It's minimum 2 lands away.
Yeah.
You are in contention for top 8 after your match is finished.
And we'll draw off the probe, draws Lightning Bolt.
To the deck check station.
Not a bad draw.
No, not bad. He's got to take care of this Thought Knot Seer, but he might have some extra time to do it. We'll see whether Matt hits the land. It's a second Eye of Ugin. That's not going to do anything.
Borst attack isn't good here because Tannen just cracks back for more and he has Deathrite Shaman available. It's only 3 in combat, but then there's 2 more with the Shaman. Tannen's going to start casting spells. You already know he has 2 Brainstorms, so those elementals are going to start to overwhelm you.
Yeah, that's just a blank draw for Matthew.
I suppose you kind of want to make the attack here because you know you can lock in that 4 points.
Okay. And Matthew's going to count it up, but nothing he can really do right now. I mean, his only real decision is whether or not to attack.
Yes. Yeah, there's really no reason to just cast, play second Eye of Ugin and put one in the graveyard. Can't cast the other spells.
He will swing. See if Tannen wants to block. He'll take 4, go to 13. No more plays from Matthew. We'll go back to Tannen. Draws Force of Will. If he keeps that with blue card, that might be able to cover any out Matthew has.
Yeah, that's a fantastic draw.
Here is Brainstorm, another elemental.
Yeah, assume that he wouldn't put it back. When we saw his hand earlier, he had 2 Brainstorms, so he should have access to Force of Will blue card. He has Lightning Bolt to turn up the heat. There's a fetch land available, so he can reset if he has 2 cards he just doesn't want. It looks like a lot of blue spells, though, and just being able to make a bunch of elemental tokens, that's a reasonable plan.
Yeah, it's just fine right now. Kind of deciding what he wants to take here. All right, young Pyromancer and 1 elemental will swing in. That's for 3. It'll put Matthew down to 15. No more lands yet for Tannen.
Looks like he has a Daze in hand, so he has access to Daze and Force of Will.
Yeah, and still the Deathrite Shaman if he needs more mana. Go over to Matt. Did not get a good look at that one.
And with no land drop, he can't activate Shaman to deal 2 damage, but he can use it to cast Lightning Bolt. So either Borst presents a creature to get Lightning Bolted, or that just goes upstairs and it makes him win a little faster.
Matt's going to send the Smasher again, and Tannen is going to Lightning Bolt it.
A combo.
And block with the Elemental token. Great, and Tannen gets a card. No more Thought-Knot Seer. Did Matthew draw does he have the ability to cast anything? We'll see. He'll pass. No, he does not. Coast is clear here for Tannen.
And this should be a walk-in from here.
Yeah, swing in for 4. Matthew to 11.
With that Matter Reshaper, you'll need to draw a land now, but the Reshaper is just nowhere near good enough. We see a Brainstorm for Tannen. He's going to get some more Elemental tokens. Minimally, this is a 2-turn clock.
Yeah, and pretty easily is more. See right now, 5 power in play. Behind Daze and Force of Will, it just feels like Matthew won't be able to resolve something.
Yeah, here you have Deathrite Shaman activation that would put Borst to 9. You have 5 power on the table, that's 4. If Borst casts a spell, Tannen can just Daze it, hold priority, and force it, make 2 Elemental tokens, and then that's lethal.
He'll probe, get to see what all still there. Matthew just hands him the cards. 2 Endbringers, Eye of Ugin, Matter Reshaper, Chalice of the Void.
Yeah, check these out. Would you believe that I can't cast my spells? All right, yes, another token for Tannen. He passes.
All right, and still no land for Matthew. So we are going to go ahead and take a look over at the modern match between Ari Silverfine and Caleb Durward. Right now, Tannen Grace is up 1-0. It's looking like he's going to get this one in 2. That does mean if Caleb Durward gets this game in modern, it's going to be the match for the team. Both players currently at 9. The battlefield for the Burn player, we have 5 lands in place, facing down Drogskull Captain and Spell Queller. So Spell Queller with Hexproof, that's a pretty neat trick for the deck.
Yeah. It's hard to assemble 2 burn spells you want to aim at creatures, and it looks like Ari is very light on cards in hand.
Yeah, Mausoleum Wanderer going to be cast. 2 Spirits swinging in. That's for 5, drops Ari to 4. Going to try a Boros Charm. That doesn't even burn a creature, but it can give it double strike.
It does a lot of damage. There's some combinations of 2 cards that could be lethal here.
Sure, he'll take the damage, and Ari's going to extend the hand. So it actually is Caleb winning over here in Modern, and it looks like it's going to be Tannen winning in Legacy as well. Brennan DeCandio has picked up a game in Standard, but that's not going to matter. You see the handshake up top. So 5 games, 1 across the board, 2-0 for Tannen Grace, 2-0 for Caleb Durward. That's going to be matches for both of them, and their team is moving on to the semifinals.
Operation Get Tannen a Trophy continues on path.